back again. Gonna start where I left off a bit. We're talking about some open source licenses. So there's more than one way to provide open source software. The terms of the software license control how the source can be combined with other code or reused, and hundreds of different open source licenses exist. However, to be open source licenses must allow users to freely use, view, change, compile, and distribute the code. There are two broad cases of open source licenses that are particularly important. Copyleft licenses that are designed to encourage keeping code open source. Permissive licenses that are designed to maximize code reusability. Um, Copyleft or share-like licenses require that anyone who distributes the source code with or without changes must also pass along the freedom for others to also copy, change, and distribute the code. The basic advantages of these licenses is that they help keep existing code and improvements to that code open and add the amount of open source code available. Common copyleft licenses include the GNU, the General Public License, and the Lesser GNU Public License. Permissive licenses that are intended to maximize the reusability of source code. Users can use a source for any purpose as long as the copyright and license statements are preserved, including using that code under a more restrictive or even proprietary license. This makes it very easy for code to be reused, but at this risk of encouraging proprietary-only enhancements. Several commonly used permissive open source licenses include the MIT or the X11 license, the simplified BSD license, and the Apache Software License 2.0. So you're probably asking who develops open source software. It is a misconception to think that open source software is developed solely by an army of volunteers or even an army of individuals plus Red Hat. Open source development today is overwhelmingly professional. Many developers are paid by the organizations to work with open source projects to construct and contribute to enhancements they or their customers need. Volunteers and the academic community play a significant role and can make vital contributions, especially in new technology areas. The combination of formal and informal development provides highly dynamic and productive environment. Who is Red Hat? You're probably asking. Red Hat is the world's leading provider of open source software solutions using community-powered approach to reliable and high-performance cloud, Linux, middleware, storage, and virtualization technologies. Red Hat mission is to be the catalyst in communities of customers, contributors, and partners creating better technology the open source way. Red Hat's role is to help customers connect with the open source community and their partners to effectively use open source software solutions. Red Hat actively participates in and supports the open source community, and many years of experience have convinced the company of the importance of open source to the future of the IT industry. Red Hat is most well known for their participation in the Linux community and the Red Hat Enterprise Linux distribution. However, Red Hat is also very active in other open source communities, including middleware projects centered on the JBoss developer community, virtualization solutions, cloud technologies such as OpenStack and OpenShift, and the Ceph and Gluster software-based storage projects, among others. What is a Linux distribution? A Linux distribution is an installable operating system constructed from the Linux kernel and supporting user programs and libraries. A complete Linux operating system is not developed by a single organization, but by a collection of independent open source development communities working with the individual software components. A distribution provides an easy way for users to install and manage a working Linux system. In 1991, a young computer science student named Linus Torvalds developed a Unix-like kernel named Linux, licensed as an open source software under the GPL. The kernel is the core component of the operating system, which manages hardware, memory, and the scheduling of running programs. The Linux kernel could then be supplemented with other open source software such as utilities and programs from the GNU project. The graphical interface from MIT's X Window system and many other open source components such as the SendMail server or the Apache HTTP web server in order to build a complete open source Unix-like operating system. However, one of the challenges for Linux users was to assemble all of these pieces from many different sources. Very early in its history, Linux developers began working to provide a distribution of pre-built and tested tools that users could download and set up their Linux systems quickly. Many different Linux distributions exist, with differing goals and criteria for selecting and supporting the software provided by their distribution. However, distributions generally have many common characteristics. Distributions consist of Linux kernel and supporting user space programs. Distribution can be a small and single purpose or included thousands of open source programs. Distributions must provide a means of installing and updating the distribution and its components. The provider of the distribution must support that software and ideally be participating directly in the community developing the software. Red Hat Enterprise Linux is Red Hat's commercialized Linux distribution. So that's a bit about Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So I'm going to talk about Fedora. Fedora is a community project that produces and releases a complete free Linux-based operating system. Red Hat sponsors the community and works with community representatives to integrate the latest upstream software into fast-moving and secure distribution. The Fedora project contributes everything back to the free and open source world, and anyone can participate. However, Fedora focuses on innovation and excellence, not long-term stability. New major updates happen every 6 months, and they can bring significant changes. Fedora only supports releases for about a year. 2 major updates which make it less suitable for enterprise use. Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Red Hat Enterprise Linux is Red Hat's enterprise-ready, commercially supported Linux distribution and is the leading platform for open source computing. Not just of the mature open source projects, RHEL is extensively tested with large support ecosystems of partners, hardware and software certifications, consulting services, training, and multi-year support and maintenance guarantees. Red Hat bases its major releases of RHEL on Fedora. However, after Red Hat can pick and choose which packages that include make further enhancement contributed back to the upstream projects and Fedora, and make configuration decisions that serve the need of customers. Red Hat helps vendors and customers engage with open source community and to work with upstream development to develop solutions and fix issues. CentOS is a community-driven, which is what we're working here. This is CentOS, so you guys understand. CentOS is a community-driven Linux distribution derived from much of the open-source Red Hat Enterprise Linux codebase and other sources. It is a free of charge and easy to install, and is staffed and supported by an active user community of volunteers that operate independently of Red Hat. Alright, so I think I'm just going to cut the video right there. I hope that you enjoyed that information. You got a good amount of information about that. Just introing you to Linux and introing you to VM Workstation and the Bash Shell and CentOS. We got Red Hat over here. Just an intro to all that. Introduction to myself. Introduction to my my web pages, deterrent.com, intro to my Facebook, intro to, all of that. Just want you guys to get familiar with who I am. And like I said, my name is David Acevedo, so if you watch my earlier videos, you know who I am. Please do contact me, email me about IT related questions. If you need support or security, please do contact me. I'm more than willing to help. I'm available 10 to 15 hours a day for that. So I am here to help you. However I can help you with your information technology needs. If it's email support, phone support, however you need that done. So with all that being said, I hope you have a wonderful day, and tune in later for some more videos. All right, thank you.